I know from personal experience that nobody in broadcasting works any harder than Dorothy Fuldheim does, or absorbs more material than she absorbs every day. Dorothy, how do you begin your day? What time do you get up?
About 6 o'clock.
Does the clock go off and make you get
No,
up,
I just automatically wake up.
There's a clock inside of you.
I guess so, because no matter what time I go to sleep, I have a peculiar thing. If I fall asleep at 10 o'clock, then I'm all right. But if I don't, if I start reading, then it may be 1 or 2 o'clock before I go to sleep. And I'm up at 6, and then I usually hang around in bed for a half hour for the luxury of not having to do anything. Then I get up and read the paper. I have breakfast, and the telephone rings, and I get dressed. It takes forever, it seems to me, before you get your shower. And I leave the house at about, the maid comes in, I leave as soon as she arrives, about 5 minutes to 9. Go downstairs, the car's waiting for me, I get in it, drive, get there.
Takes about 20 minutes?
About 20 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Do you read in the car? Or you
No.
just take it easy?
Well, I can't read. I get car sick.
When did you give up driving? You used to drive.
Long time ago.
You just get bored with it?
No, there were personal reasons.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you get to the office, I suppose the first thing you do is look over the mail, and then you got to think about those interviews, and there are people who are traipsing through that station.
Oh, no, I don't get started immediately the mail. The telephone rings. Then somebody comes in and talks. I began dictating at about 9:45, and then by 10:30, my guests come in. And I really never talk to them about what I'm going to talk to them about. I just want to make them feel at home.
It's an icebreaker.
It's really an icebreaker. They, if there are 2 or 3 of them, I introduce them and they talk to each other. And while listening to them talk, I get a feel about them too. I also, if they're there for a book, and I had a lot of trouble about books. At first when I talked about books, everybody said, books on television, who wants to hear it? And I was the first one to introduce it. I even did reviews of books, at one time, half hour at a sitting. And then I talk to them, and I do the interviews, and I come back at about 20 after 11, or 11:30. Telephone rings. I began looking through all the New York and Washington papers to see if there's anything. I read about 7 newspapers a day.
And you just blast through them?
I'm a rapid reader. I never read every word, and very often now I've noticed in the last year or so, I'm so familiar with the ideas of all these columnists. I look through it and I can almost see what they're going to say. Now, when it's something on science, or if it's fine, beautiful writing, I'll linger over it. But most of it, I go very rapidly.
Once a week, you take those live phone calls with Joel on Thursday. What is this thing about you and the chair and Joel?
Well, now listen, Fred, I've agonized for years over a chair. I was so little from the station, I just want a chair that fits my body. The distance between my knee and my hip is very short, and I'm always lurching or lounging around in a chair. So they got one for me. They got it to fit me. They made it smaller than the guys, Joel takes my chair. I don't want it worn out because I have struggled and suffered for 27 years to get a chair. No, he just goes and sits in the chair, and every day I go in there and look, see if it's my chair. It's a sort of a running gag between us.
You like those live calls that come in from people?
Well, yes, I like a question period after I've given a lecture, too.
So you enjoy having questions just pop up at you?
Well, you see, I know what it is then that worry people. You could get very alienated from an audience if you never hear from them. That's why when I finish a talk and I get questions, I can almost tell you unerringly who is going to be elected, where the votes are coming from. That's why I always talk to taxi drivers, too. I get a lot of information from them.
Now, when you do the evening news, that's live, of course, isn't it?
Yes.
But just before that, you will have taped your 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I taped that at 5 o'clock.
Then what's the 6 o'clock news like? Is it fun to be in there? What do? You have to go and sit, don't you, for a while?
Well, no, I go in just about a minute before I'm scheduled to go on. I chat with the guys. The one thing that irritates me is that they're all so much taller than I am. I tried it with a pillow, then Joel stole my pillow, and they stole my pillow, and they'd get taller. There was no way I could really be as tall as they. It's gotten to be a real thing with me. If I ever live in a reincarnate period, I'm going to have the longest legs any woman ever had. I'm going to have them. I notice men look at women. You ever notice, I don't know whether you do it, they always look at the legs going up. Well, the trip of mine is so short it doesn't count for anything. I want that rectified in my next reincarnate period.
When you depart at 6:30 and you've done your ending of the broadcast, how do you relax? What kind of things do you do?
Well, I get in the car that takes me home, then I have dinner, if I'm coming home, and I have dinner with my daughter, and after dinner we smoke a cigar, and then first thing I love to do is to wash my face and get into negligee. Sometimes I play the piano, I answer the phone, sometimes I read, unless I'm going out. It's a perfectly normal existence, perfectly normal.
Yes.
One thing I do that maybe, I love perfume. I'm allergic to it. I'm allergic to perfume, so I spray my pillows, and during the night I smell it like gardenias. It's wonderful. It's the one sensual thing I always do.
Dorothy, I know you've given a lot to your career. Has there been anything in your personal life that you've had to give up that you're sorry about as a result of what you've done on television all these years?
No, you must understand, Fred, that it was necessary for me to earn a living, and I had no different attitude towards it than you do. I mean, of course, you give up leisure, but that's beside the point.
As you look back over 83 years, are there any things that you would change?
Oh, of course. Any number of things. I can't imagine anyone saying that they were satisfied with their life. I would have stayed on the stage. I might have written, I've done 4 books. I write very easily. There's no effort for me. I don't know. When I look back at it, everyone thinks they would do something different. If you could, supposing my birthday, I'm 83 years old. Supposing I could go back 50 years. At 33, what was I like? What would I have done? But you see, I knew so little. I knew so very little. It's taken me a long time to learn things. I didn't have television as a kid, This generation knows so much more. It took me a long time before I knew about the stock market. It took me a long time before I understood why the Federal Reserve could influence our economy and so on. But I think that, from the time when I was in Germany and talked to Hitler, I began to have an historic perspective. And I judge everything, not in a small miniature way, but in a big way. How does it fit in with the whole pattern, the evolving pattern? Everything's going so fast. I wish I could live long enough so I could go to some other planet. I'd like to, even if there was no one on Mars, I'd like to stand on Mars and look out on the sky and see the planet in which I was born. It's such a short time when so much is happening.
Dorothy, you've been all over the world. You've met hundreds of people, all the important people of your time. What do you see as the most important thing in your life? What have you loved most about your life?
That's a very strange question. I suppose beautiful things. You mean of love for people? My daughter, my granddaughter, my husband. I've loved other men, too. Love is a very rich and rewarding thing, and I've had a great deal of it in my life. I suppose that and beautiful things. I love trees. I look at a tree and wish that, If I could live again, I would like to be a tree, holding my head up into the skies, feeling the wind and the rain and the sweetness of blooming things underneath, near the trunk of my tree. I think I have a very great passion for beautiful things, sweet-smelling things, clean faces, clean ideas.
So many people with great talent come into our business, and they're here but a brief time, and they are gone. They move to something else, or they retire. But you endure. You're perpetual. You're forever.
Forever? Wouldn't that be unique? What a great editorial you could write about that, if it were so. No. One knows, you know, life is like a great cathedral. The beginning of a service, they light a few candles, and then they light more, and more, until the whole cathedral is lit up. And then the service is over, and the candles begin going out. And you know, no matter how sonorous the music is in that cathedral and how great a light the candles give off, that sooner or later they will be gone. And all you can say is that for an hour there was a splendor of light and of music.
Happy birthday, love.
Thank you.
And this is to you. Happy birthday. Thank you for doing I'm going to start cutting cake. Should I start at the top or at the bottom?
Because you were supposed to make the first cut.